Hey, what's up everyone? Tommy Walker here. Tommy is my name, and I am very excited to be showing you a multi-property, multi-team content operation system that will allow different teams within an organization to have visibility into the work that each other is doing. By doing this, it allows a number of different things to happen, such as better content distribution. If your social team, your email team, your blog team, etc., are all able to see and have in the same place the different workflows that are happening, there's a lot better chance of collaboration and better content distribution. The other thing that's really exciting about this is that it allows the content team and the SEO team specifically, if you have two different teams, to have that level of visibility with each other. You can reduce the amount of content cannibalization that exists within a search engine. Oftentimes, I've seen this time and time again, the content team wants to go after one key phrase, the SEO team wants to go after the other key phrase. Because there are content silos that exist, you're not able to see who is going after what, and therefore you have content cannibalization within the Google search rank. This eliminates that, or it at least significantly reduces the amount of that can happen. This is going to be a 3-part series. I believe that once you're done with these videos, you'll be able to have a much better feel for how a content operation can run smoothly with multiple teams. Before we get started, I should also let you know that this entire operation is built out in Airtable. I've used a number of different tools in the past, and Airtable has been by far my favorite to manage this kind of system. So the first thing that we're looking at here is an ideas and validation area, right? We've got a few different views. What we're looking at right now is this all publishing properties tab. We've got this master view over here, but don't really ever spend any time in that. It's just to make sure that we have that full raw view. What I'm looking at here, though, is our ideas and validation view. And the reason I have this view in particular is because I want to have a place where I can brainstorm ideas and then, without any sort of filter, brainstorm the ideas and then see if I can validate them to make it something that actually goes into production. So you can see here very quickly we have properties 1, 2, and 3, and that shows all the different things that we're going to validate, ideas, and kind of move them through the next step of the process. However, I don't want to be looking at all of the properties all at once right now, and this is one of the things I love about Airtable is that I can start to filter out these views. I don't necessarily want to see property 2 and 3 right now, so I'm just going to create a filter here that says and property is property 1, and we can hide everything else very easily. And that doesn't take anything away from the table, it just makes it so we don't see it. So what I do here, right, we've got 2 different parts of the brainstorm in any sort of content operation system, and this is, you've got the human side and you've got the technology side. Now, the technology side hopefully is what makes it so the human side is a little bit easier. In a brainstorm session, I might run a brainstorm session where I ask myself and my team to take maybe 10, 15 minutes maximum to just come up with as many ideas as possible. So what you can see here is we've got content themes, content pillars, feedback loops, competitive analysis, content calendar, so forth and so on. I might take a few extra minutes and say content strategy, strategy template. Let's see, what else? Content calendar. Right? And you come up with a few different ideas. You get the idea, spend about 10 minutes doing that, and come up with as many ideas as possible in that short amount of time as you can. After that, we'll go through the columns again. Once we've come through and found out all the ideas, we want to start to identify what our reader savvy is going to be. By doing some of this work ahead of time, you're going to already, when you go to put this stuff into production, you will have a strong sense of what that type of piece is going to be. So in some cases, something like content strategy, right? We can look at content strategy from a beginner, an intermediate, or an advanced perspective. So the question is when we approach content strategy here, how do we want to approach it, and who is the reader that we're trying to go after? So we decide this early on in the process, and we'll just go through and we'll say strategy template, that's for an intermediate person. Once we've done that, we've gone through that list, we're going to go through, or we're going to decide what format it's going to be. So here, we've got article, video, social post, email, ebook, or email, right? So we'll just assign this one. We'll say that this is going to be an article, and we can do this one as an article and a video, right? Just so we have that sort of visual cue of what the format itself is going to be. We'll just know ahead of time. And if we're involving other teams, we can show them very easily, hey, here are the things that we'd like to work with you on. Next, we're going to look at the content type. Now, this is going to be varied, of course, from different people in different teams on the types of content you create. But here, for the sake of this example, we've got review, roundup, how to, tear down, and template. So obviously, strategy template, that's going to be a template. Calendar template, that's going to be a template. But you can see here with some of the other ones like content themes, we're going to review different content themes that are out there. We're going to tear down content pillars. Maybe we'll look at a competitor and tear down what their content pillars are going to be. We'll show you how to do a competitive analysis. We'll put together a template and we'll call this how to with content analytics, and we'll take it from there. Now, once I've done that, right, once we have all of that, that's pretty much it. We've gathered all those ideas. Now, the second part of that is making sure that we validate these ideas. And what I like about Airtable very much is that I am able to link my different records to different tables. So over here, you'll see that we have this big old keyword list, and I'll dive into this a little bit more in a second. But this is a list of all the different key phrases that we have opportunities on or that we've already gone after, right? I don't have that filled out, but the ones that we've gone after, this information can be pulled out of Google Search Console. But this is essentially the keyword opportunities area is everything that we plan on going after a little bit later. So what I love about Airtable is this ability to link records to other tables. So I will get into this table just a little bit more later, but this table right here is our big old keyword list, right? And these are all the different key phrases that we want to go after. I'll show you this in just a moment, but it's really important to know this right now. So we'll say content pillars is a phrase that we're going to go after, this idea of whether it's something we want to put into production or not. So I'm going to go over here to Hrefs, and we'll say content pillars, and we'll get all the information that we need on that. So we can see already the keyword difficulty for content pillars is going to be 29. It's got a volume of 200, and we can start to enter this information over here. So go back to this. Now, this key phrase does not currently exist within the big old keyword list, or at least I don't think so. So content pillars, nope, doesn't exist. So now we can add a new record called content pillars. We can open that up, and we can start to enter the information that we found over here. So we'll take the keyword difficulty, call it a 29. Remember, it's 200. And then as we dig into this information a little bit more, we can start to do things like fill out the different search features. Does it have featured snippets? Does it have video? People also ask, we can start to incorporate that stuff into there. We can also, from this table, decide whether it's a new or an existing key phrase. In most of these cases, it's going to be new. And then we can propose a title. We can check out the current rank. We can look at the primary competitors. So I'll show you what this looks like on another one. So what I really love about Airtable is we have the ability to create these keyword records that we would link over to here. Right, so right here you can see we have content calendar as the primary keyword. We have keyword difficulty, which we've tracked. We've brought in the search volume. This is everything that we found in the Hrefs. We start to track this information and put it in here. Something that I really loved about this that I'm able to do is say, if I'm really doing that research well in advance, I'm able to do things like track the search features. So featured snippet, thumbnails, people also ask, top stories. Like these are all features of that SERP, which is great for when I go to create the content later. But also I can track the primary competitors, right? If I'm in Hrefs, I can open up one of these, I'll say content pillars. And what I can do is in Ahrefs, I can open up any particular key phrase, and it will show me who the primary top 10 competitors are in that search. So I'll generally just copy this information over, and when I go to assign it to a writer later on, they're able to take a look at this and say, hey, how do I beat these individual pieces, right? So we've got the keyword difficulty, we've got all this information filled out. Now we know when we get further on into the process that we have validated research, we know what's worth it. Something you'll note over here too is that when we entered the search volume right here, so we'll say that this is 3,200. I'm going to just switch this around real quick. We'll change this to 4,000, right? That information right here, that search volume automatically adds itself to the record here, and you don't have to worry about entering it multiple times. So let's take this idea of feedback loops, and we're going to say, okay, this is validated. We know that this is a piece that we're definitely going to put into production. At this point, this disappears from this view. There's no longer an idea. It's validated. We're going to continue moving on. From here, right, in this next view, this validated view, I want to start assigning the difficulty of this piece. So what that difficulty rating is going to be is based on a number of factors. Primarily, how hard is this piece going to be to write? If we know that the keyword difficulty over here is going to be a 41, that's already giving us some idea that it's going to be a little bit difficult to rank for. But also, like, how difficult will it be to write? If it's an average piece, it's not going to be too hard, won't require a ton of research, we can call it a 2 or a 3, right? But if it's highly researched and it needs a lot of graphics, what you're competing against in there is going to be very difficult, then we're going to assign that a much higher difficulty rating. I want to know this right out of the gate before I send this over to an author, or as an author, I would want to know how difficult this piece is going to be to write overall. And while we're in the validated ideas area, I'm also going to give this thing a title. So, how to create back loops. I'm going to give it a meta description. Feedback loops help inform your content strategy, and we'll give it a slug. And the reason I want to do that in advance, feedback loops. The reason I want to do that in advance is when I go to assign this to the author, there's going to be a lot more context up front that they can have, and this can help guide some of that conversation further down the road. And you see here, like, I want to promote this primarily over SEO because we've done that SEO validation. In some cases, some content won't be good for SEO, right? You'll find that there's not a lot of search volume. That doesn't mean it's not worth creating, though. You might find that it's better off for, one of your other channels. So maybe that's something that you want to consider as you're going to validate subjects. And there's definitely ways to validate that information too. And then from here, I might also add some notes, like what are some of the things that I want to see out of this? Maybe as an editor, as I'm assigning this stuff, I've gotten some really interesting research along the way. Maybe I'll add that in here, or just general notes that I want to be able to put in. All right, so now that's all validated. We know that it's validated. We've assigned it a difficulty rating. We'll say that this is a very difficult one, or moderately difficult to go after. We have all that information available. We'll then move this from validated to needs assignment, right? And this is still pretty straightforward. We have in here, we now have a writer view. And this is another example of where those linked records start coming into play. I can look at each one of the authors that I have from this authors list, and I have all of their information here. I'll talk about this in just a little bit too. But from here, I can assign the author. We'll say that author 4, and you'll see I have all of their pay rate information here as well. That's going to come in handy a little bit later. We'll say author 5, who gets paid 5 cents per word. We're going to do that. We're going to give him a draft date of, we'll go 2 weeks from now. So his draft is going to be due on the 22nd. We're going to publish this thing 2 weeks after that. So 22nd, 29th, November 5th. And now when we send the information to the author, I can also say I want, editor 3 to be the person to do the editorial on this. So now we have a very strong idea of who's doing what and when. Now what's cool about Airtable is I can also set up an automation that will automatically email the author to let them know that they have this particular draft that they're ready for. Now, in some cases, you might actually have the authors in your Airtable base, and that's cool. You just skip a step in that part. But if you're the type of publisher that wants to make sure that it's only you that's focusing on this stuff, you have the flexibility to work within the system and not really have to go too far out of your way. So once this article's been assigned, right, we simply flip the status to assigned. There's not much that's going to happen in this view, to be perfectly honest. We have this view is so you can see all of the different articles that are assigned, your current due dates, and if anybody's not hitting their due date or your information's not there ahead of time, you now know what's out there in the field. So once you have the draft URL from your author, you put that in here, you switch that from assigned over to for review, and then it disappears from there. So now you can have a very strong sense of who owes you what, and once you have a big list of this, you can start to keep track of everything a little bit more appropriately. Now that you have stuff for review, what I love about this for review is that it can be sorted out by your editors, right? So if you have multiple editors, then you can see in here the different things that they have for review. Now, what's also cool for each editor is that they have a list of things in their own private view that only they have access to of everything that's in their queue, right? So if you have multiple editors responsible for individual pieces of content and they are managing the entire process, they have the ability to do so without getting bogged down by everybody else. But if you're the person in charge of everything and you're taking a look at all of it, you can also see everything that your editor has in their review queue and take it from there. Once the editor is done with that part of the process, if you're one of those publications that pays by the word, then you might be able to say right here, okay, this article has 1,500 words, right? And I'll show you why that's important in just a minute here. We might also say this one has 2,300 words, this one has 4,000 words, right? We'll then flip these over to upload, right? So the editor's done doing their thing. They've entered the word count, all of that. They'll schedule it ready for upload. Now, in some cases, there are people who are responsible solely for the uploading of the content. I know in one of my high volume operations, I had somebody whose job it was to exclusively handle all of the uploading of the content and taking care of like tagging and stuff like that on the back end. When this is all up in the upload, you'll notice the publish date shows back up again from before, and they have all the information they need in order to upload the content. So title, meta, slug, it's all there, right? We do enter the images back in the review process to make it easy for the person doing the uploading to take care of that and put that into WordPress, because WordPress does not always play well with Google Drive. But then the other thing that we ask the person who's doing the uploading to do is enter the WordPress URL version, or whatever your content management system is, of the draft itself. And the reason for that is quite simple. At the end, if you ever have to go through a refresh project, you want to make sure that you have quick and easy access to the admin URL. In this system, too, there is the possibility of adding a revise and refresh date. A little bit further on down the road, you can get automatic notifications, and when that happens, you have easy access to get to that admin URL without having to dig through and potentially not find. Once they are done, they'll flip it from upload to possibly scheduled, if it's stuff that you're able to schedule well in advance of yourself. And this is all very similar information here. And then once it goes from scheduled, it can be flipped from scheduled to published, right? And that's really that. Now, once we get into this published view, here's something that's really interesting. Remember how I said we have to enter that word count here? And the author also has their pay rate included in there. What's cool about this system is that we can show right away that the pay amount, this author needs to get paid $45 for this article, right? We'll call this to be paid. And then that information is automatically populated, so we don't have to spend the time really trying to figure that out. The system is now doing it for us. Let's see. The other views that we have here that are pretty cool is we're able to take a look at each of these from a calendar perspective. So this is calendar for the draft date. and then publish date. I personally am the type of editor who likes to calendar this way to figure out what my days are going to be that I'm publishing content. And what's cool about this is I can look at things that are without dates right over here, and I can just assign them dates, and then that information is going to just be added to the record here. So as a publisher, as an editor, that's something that I prefer to do. I like this, and it gives me a very cohesive sense of what's getting published and where and when. And you can do that for each one of the properties that you're managing. So that's one of the cool things I really like about the process of moving content from idea to published. All right, that's the end of part 1. Part 2 is going to be about linking this content operation system here, the status-based system, with the SEO system. So if you are interested and you are the type of team that likes to work off of a big old keyword list, I can show you what that looks like next and how we can get these two parts of the system working with each other so you're able to have different types of content ideation that exists. After that, we're going to go briefly over projects, link building opportunities, how you can manage authors, and a number of other features that will allow you to just have a more cohesive content operation all in one place. Now, if this is something you'd like to have for your own operation, or you'd like me to audit your existing operation, send me an email, tommy@tommyismyname.com, and we can get something on the books. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you in part 2.